Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Welcome to our virtual panel on learning assistance. We have 4 fabulous speakers today who are going to talk to us about practices around teaching with learning assistance. Nicole Infante, Gabby Puck, Mitra Hosani, and Josh Brummer. So I'm going to hand it over to our panelists. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And then after our panelists have talked a little bit about how they work with learning assistance, there'll be plenty of time for questions and answers later in our session. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mitra Hosseini, and I'm coordinator of Math Foundation Math and Learning Assistant at Salt Lake Community College.
And I'm Rachel Marcial. I'm a math faculty. And I was one of the 2 faculty that helped start the Learning Assistant program at Salt Lake Community College.
I'm gonna go share my screen. I'm gonna cover those subjects you see here as much as I can. So introduce who are LAs and history of LA program at Salt Lake Community College, LA team, how do we hire LAs and we train them, how we use them in our classes, how do we just pay them, and then we will answer any question if you have a question.
We'll do that.
So LAs are mostly from our students, and they are part of employee that we hire to help our students inside the class as mentor and tutor. And they are not definitely teacher assistant. They cannot grade.
Oh, sure. So the way we recruit our learning assistants is it's from our own student pool. Mostly, we do hire some students that are external, but we're looking at those that have taken a class at Salt Lake Community College, we call it SLIC. So we're looking for students that have already been here for at least a semester, that have taken a math class, that have high GPA. And then the best learning assistants we have are usually from our instructor recommendations. The history of the Learning Assistant program, it started with me and then one other faculty, and then we roped in another faculty. But we were actually at another institution that had a Math Mentors program. And then when we came here, we're like, oh, they don't have anything like that. And we joined the Learning Assistant Alliance for a bit, and we went to some of the international conferences, and there were not a lot of community colleges that had learning assistants. But one of the things we got from the conference was that they were hiring them with work study funding. And so we started with 2 LAs with work study funding, and now we have legislative funding, some base funding, and so we're up to 22 LAs. And then I don't know if you want to talk about the pay, or some of them are work study and some of them are department funding based on that legislative funding we have.
We covered in the next slide. So we have a team here for LA program. We have a program manager who just cover any pay sheets and some office work. And we have LA faculty leaders. We are 3 leaders. We all are faculty, and we lead our LAs in our weekly training. And also I work as a coordinator of the LA program, just for do some coordination between leaders and the office and program manager.
We hire them, we get a lot of students from faculty referrals, but we go to our local job fairs, we have poster sessions, we advertise in our college newsletters. And then we just this semester got a web page up thanks to Mitra. And so that students, if they're searching for jobs and things, they can go to that LA page and apply through the job portal there. But it all goes through our school's job portal, so they have their own advertising as well.
How do we train them? We have different kind of training going on with the LA program. The first training is the beginning of semester. We call it kickoff training. Second one that we train them every week, every Friday, session for 1 hour, and we led this training by one of three of us. And we have a weekly meeting with the course instructor that just each course instructor and LA pair up and work on upcoming week schedule and students and how they're gonna work through the upcoming week. And then active participation in the course by attending class regularly. So they are LA attend the class session, and basically it's kind of training for them because they can sit there and watch teacher teach the class and so on.
The beginning of semester training, it's like a half a day training that they come in for. We do icebreakers. They get to meet the teachers that they're going to be working with that semester. We give them lunch, and then we just go over like the general rules and responsibilities that they're going to have to do. Like what are they expected to do or not do as an LA, and then you know what the faculty coordinators are going to do for them as well.
In the weekly training session, we have a book discussion. Every semester, we introduce a book and we provide a book for our LAs. And we divide it to many sections. They're going to discuss it through the weekly training. Each time 2 or 3 LAs going to discuss one section of the book. We have a weekly check-in. We just talk to them, how was your week? And if you had any challenge that we can help you to figure out what to do. And we teach them with tips, study skills, strategies to become a more effective LA and handle class challenges. Also, we have guest presenters, and they introduce the campus resources and support services that LA can share with their students.
And then they are also meeting with the instructor that they get assigned to that particular course. So they have to meet at least a half an hour each week with their instructor. And then in those meetings, they're talking about what lessons are upcoming, what activities, just to make sure that LA knows what to expect for the week. But they're also talking about like kind of bridging that gap between the instructor and the students. And so which students do you want me to focus on? How do you want me to interact this week? Like maybe there's a test and the teacher wants them to work with particular students on test corrections, or, you know, just making sure that the student and the teacher are on the same page of what they want to do to support the students.
How do we use LA in our classes? So we use LA to support our students during the class time as a tutor, and they help them with the lesson, with the activities, with whatever they need in that particular class. We use LAs only in math department, not the other parts of the college. We assist this, they assist the students outside of the class over the Zoom or just in person, in a group or individual. They can have workshop with the students, exam review workshop if they are, it's depend on the students if they need to have any workshop. Also, the most important part of our LA job is mentoring. They are mentoring students by connecting students with the helpful college services and resources. They monitor students' progress in Canvas. They cannot do any changes to the Canvas grade or anything. They are there to announce the students, send out informational announcement, put some supportive worksheets or anything that feel important for students to get to use it that way. They're going to put it in Canvas. So they monitor their progress. Also, if a student has a specific need, they can literally identify that as students and talk about it in the meeting that they're going to have with their instructors. And just one more time, they cannot grade because they are not teacher assistant, they are LAs.
Do you want, so it's been about 7 minutes. I don't know if you want us to keep going or if you want to go to the next person.
So guys, do you want us to
You can keep going. I think I'm next and I probably won't take 7 minutes, so go ahead.
Great.
So our LAs get placed into our classes based on a couple different things. So when we're hiring them, we have them fill out like an availability worksheet, and then we have to assign them based on what classes we're trying to fill, right? So we try to pair them up with how it fits into their schedule. We do give returning LAs priority, so we let them pick their classes first. Then we place students into any new LAs into the classes that are left. And it takes a bit of time to match them up, but it's also based on like what classes they've taken, what are they qualified to be an LA in, and then also pairing up with like different teachers and their personalities. Right now, our school is going through some strategic strategies, which includes supplemental instruction, and so we're prioritizing specific classes in the next couple semesters that we're going to give priority to hiring for those classes first, and then whoever's left will go into the other classes.
Yeah, I didn't write anything here in my slide because we are a little flexible about placing my our LAs. How do they get paid? So they get paid with different ways, two different ways. Many of them are department funded, so we have a budget to pay to many of LAs, and many of them are just get paid through the work study. Thank you for your time, guys.
Okay, I think I'm up next. Hi, everyone. My name is Josh Brummer. I'm a faculty member at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I had grand intentions of having slides, and I don't, but I'll try to talk very clearly. And I'm very happy to answer any questions you have about our LA program. We've had LAs at UNL for probably about a decade or so. And I've kind of overseen our LA program for about the last 6 years. And we always have a graduate student associate coordinator for the program that takes on a lot of roles and responsibilities there with kind of training our LAs. So we hire about 30 to 35 learning assistants per year, and most of them we're hiring in large enrollment coordinated courses that are structured around active learning and like students working problems a lot in class. So what's very unique about our program is our learning assistants are all undergraduates, many of them math majors, but a lot of math education or engineering or computer science majors. It just varies. They're all actually working almost exclusively with graduate teaching assistants who are instructors of record in these courses. So that's something that's kind of cool about our context. We've actually had some GTAs who have been doing thesis work in math education that have done dissertations about learning assistants working with GTAs because there's not a lot of literature about that, mostly about LAs working with faculty. So that's kind of cool. So most of the classes, it's college algebra, trigonometry, and then like our pre-calculus class have about 35 to 42 students, very active learning based, a little bit of lecture during class, but a lot of time spent on students working in small groups. And the LAs spend all of that class time kind of floating around and supporting the group work alongside the instructor. So LAs are also, so they're paid for their time in class. They're also paid to prepare for class by completing the problems in our workbook ahead of time. They hold review sessions for all the exams, and they work with their graduate student they've been paired with to prepare for that. And then they're also paid for some time for instructor meetings on a weekly basis. So like I said, they work mostly with our graduate students, but we have started incorporating some learning assistants into some of our 300 level intro to math proof courses. So a pure intro to proofs, and then we have a modern algebra and a real analysis intro proofs course, which is kind of cool because now that we have that structure in place, it is kind of nudging some of our faculty that teach those courses to use an active learning format and to have students working in worksheets and small groups at the board, because we say at the start of the semester, hey, we'll hire you in LA if you want. They can help with some office hours, but they can also help support students working on problems during class. And here's all these worksheets that other faculty have developed if you want. And a lot of people have been choosing to take that path. So that's kind of great. I like seeing that. So a few other things that are, I want to tell you a little about how we support LAs, how we train them in the department, and then I'll be, again, happy to answer any follow-up questions later on. So just recently we've started using SharePoint to create a kind of a handbook for LAs that has all the information about their job roles and descriptions. So we've been kind of building that out. So that's always sitting around. Before the semester begins, we do a half-day orientation for our learning assistants, where they learn about all the logistics. Usually the graduate student associate coordinator runs that. And they also get to join a session with all of the GTAs who are also doing a pre-semester orientation. Oftentimes something that's about like, eliciting good thinking from students or something like that. And so they get to incorporate into groups with graduate students, and if their grad student is there that they know they'll be working with during the semester, that's the first time they get to meet them usually, and then they roll into their first like instructor meeting. So that's kind of something cool. We also have sessions during the graduate student orientation about working with learning assistants, since that's, again, kind of something unique at UNL and something that we want to provide professional development for them as well. Very recently, we just created a 0 credit hour optional learning assistant pedagogy seminar that meets weekly. It is so 0 credits. Our learning assistants don't have to pay to take it, obviously, so that's very important to us. But they get course credit. It goes on a transcript that says formally they've received this professional development. And also importantly, we managed to get it worth experiential learning credit, which is a thing that UNL just recently started doing. All students, as of a year or so ago, have to take an experiential learning course, something where they're taking a class that they have a real world component that, or an application component outside of the classroom. And so our learning assistants can take that and get that credit. And so that's something we're kind of proud of. And throughout the course, they do written reflections, but also something that we think is kind of neat is they do a peer observation as a part of that pedagogy seminar. Now, because they're getting the credit for it on their transcript, we feel like we can actually ask them to do assignments, and we can ask them to do readings, and we can ask them to do this peer observation and reflection. And so we find that valuable for our LAs. So I think I'll stop there, and I'm excited to hear what some of our other panelists have to say and answer your questions here in a little bit.
Great, that brings me up. So I'm Nicole Infante. I am the Director of Quantitative Reasoning at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. And I will be saying a lot of the things that Josh and Mitra just said about how we train our LAs. We start with a half day before the semester starts. During the semester, we are not quite as regular as other schools may be. And some of that is this semester we have 10, and they are all returning learning assistants. So we don't necessarily need to meet with them every week. So we kind of have our meeting scheduled based on how much experience do our learning assistants have or not. We have a nice curriculum sort of set out for them. We don't have any formal credit for it at this point, something we've been looking into. But our key training points are really about trying to create a welcoming environment, making sure that we're building relationships with students, talking about questioning strategies, language to avoid. Don't say it's easy, because just because you think it's easy doesn't mean it's easy for everybody. So we talk a lot about how do we ask good questions, how do we say things that don't make students feel stupid, and then do's and don'ts. How do you move about the classroom? How do you, deal with a student who's visibly upset? We talk a lot about growth mindset, productive struggle, motivation, because not every student that you're going to work with is really motivated to succeed. And they can work up to 20 hours a week. And we do put them in our classrooms. And we'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. But one thing that we do in our training is I've been involved in research on the online tutoring space, and I've been working with learning assistants for a long time. And during COVID, we created these video case studies that we use in training a lot. And so we'll watch just a couple quick minutes here. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Hi, do you need any help today?
Yeah, how do you do number 4?
Okay, what does number 4 ask you to do? Let me get situated and pull up this share screen thing real quick.
It says, I'll just wait for you. Wait.
Okay, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay.
It says find x for x squared plus 4x plus 3.
X squared plus 4x plus 3. And we're finding x. Is that all that it says?
Yeah.
Is it equal to anything at all?
Yeah, 0.
Okay. So we'll just have to factor it. Since we want to find x, we're going to first factor it. So doing the factoring, we boil it down to x plus 1 times x plus 3 equals 0. And then from here, we can go ahead and say x equals -1 and x equals -3. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. How do I do number 10? It says find x for x squared.
So we have 6 videos in total, and what's great about them is that there's lots of good and bad in them. This one, as you see, it starts pretty rough. But a lot of times when we hire learning assistants, we know that this is what they think good tutoring probably looks like. Good help looks like this. How do I do number 4? You show them the steps and you move on, right? And so it really opens up a lot of doors for us to have really productive conversations about what we want these interactions to look like with students. And because we're produced in COVID, they are online, but they can work in both the in-person and virtual settings, however you might be using your learning assistants. So our learning assistants do spend time in the classroom, primarily college algebra, trigonometry, quantitative literacy, and our introduction to mathematical and computational thinking, which is programming and math to make art. It's a gen ed course. It's fantastically fun. And our learning assistants are expected to help with materials management, answering questions, and encouraging students to go to our tutoring space, which we call the Math Maverick Zone. And these are pictures of our actual spaces. And so in the classroom, you saw they were standing at boards working. Here, getting students to come in, sit down. Our learning assistants wear these lovely bright yellow vests to make them easy to find. But also in that space, we have our GTAs and faculty hosting their office hours. So really, our tutoring space is really a very communal space to do. And that's our big push, to make it a welcoming place to do math. So with that, I think I'm about done with my time. And we will pass it over to Gabby, an actual real life learning assistant.
Hello, I'm Gabby. I'm just going to be talking about the experience of being a learning assistant. So first I'm going to start off why I became a learning assistant. Most of it is because I really love helping people, and it's more about helping people understand the topic fully, not just like them going through the motions and them trying to get the final answer instead of really understanding the process. Another reason is that when I was a classmate, I really loved explaining things to other students and like trying to help them understand it. And through that, I even saw like my own classmates' confidence grow, and it was just something that I really enjoyed doing. And so it made me want to become a learning assistant when I got the opportunity to. And then why I'm still a learning assistant is mostly because of the gratitude I have for it, and like I get to impact students' learning, so I want to make it as positive as possible, because in the past I've even heard experiences about some people being like, oh, like I didn't have a great teacher. They didn't really like teach me that well. I don't really understand the material. And so we just want to kind of be there to help them be like positive. We want to support them. We want to encourage them. We don't want to say something that's making them put down or like them feeling like they can't do it. We want to show them that they can do it. And like some people have been like, oh, I'm really bad at math. I can't do it. But they can do it, and like we're there to show them that they can by encouraging them that if they keep trying and like working as hard as they can, then they'll be able to do it. Another reason is the environment. The people that I work with, the teachers, other graduate students, and like fellow LAs and the students, they're all very welcoming. And so like we have a very welcoming group, and like everybody's really nice and everybody's really supportive to one another. It's just been a great environment to be in. And then some of the rewards of being a learning assistant is one that I've talked about, is kind of seeing the confidence in the students grow as you help them. So like some people have come into the Math and Maverick zone and have been like, oh, I like really don't understand this topic. I can't understand it. And through me and like other learning assistants helping them, we can see them leave with the confidence and knowing that they can do it. So the next time they see a problem like that or similar to that, then they have instilled confidence in themselves to actually be able to follow through on those. And so another thing is always coming in with a positive attitude and kind of being approachable to the student. So you don't want to be like crossing your arms, kind of like sign or anything. You want to make sure that they feel welcomed to come up and ask you a question. They don't want to be like, oh, I'm like too scared to come up to this person. I feel like I shouldn't ask questions, but in reality, we really want to be approachable so they can ask questions. And then a thing that I find really interesting is how people's brains work very differently. So my brain might work differently than all of yours of how I go about a problem or how I might take a first step or whatever. And so kind of like it's been rewarding to grow within myself to figure out certain techniques that are best for the student to understand. So a student might not understand one technique that well, so let's try another one. If they don't understand that one, let's try another one and keep encouraging them until they really understand the material. And then lastly, there has been a few challenges as of anything in life. So one challenge is dealing with frustration of students. Sometimes students just feel they don't understand the material and they'll never get it. And so they kind of get angry. It's not necessarily with the learning assistant, but angry within themselves on, I can't do it. I can't get the problem. So some people have gone into the Math and Maverick zone being like, I've been in here for an hour and I still don't understand this. So I might say, let's take a break. You're overloading your brain too much and we really like, let's start fresh. So take 2 minutes, take 5 minutes. If you want to stop, come back a different day. If it's not that important right now, then let's just start fresh because we don't want the frustration to linger. And then another issue, another challenge has been people kind of coming in and wanting the answer instead of wanting the process of how to go through it. And so this is where a rule comes in where I don't write as much and I make them write it. So like I don't pick up a pen or write anything unless I absolutely have to. Like I can't seem to explain it without writing it or something. So I make them write on their own paper and like go through the process. And so that really helps me from just giving them the answer and then working through the process themselves, whether they originally wanted to or not. And the last challenge has been people have tried really hard in classes and I've still like some people have kind of just not gotten the outcome they wanted, even though how hard they tried. So we kind of see students tend to like slowly give up on themselves throughout the semester. And this is why, like as learning assistants and teachers and graduate students, whoever, we just have to keep continuing and encouraging them because otherwise they're just going to give up more and more on themselves. So all we can do is try to encourage them more and more to not give up. So, and that's why I've loved to be a learning assistant, my experience through it.
Awesome. Thank you to all of our panelists for sharing. So we have about 17 minutes for questions. You are welcome to put a question in the chat, or our group's small enough that also I think you could just unmute and feel free to ask any questions. So.
I have a question for like the math maverick people. One thing I've noticed is in the past couple of years, I used to have more students come to office hours than I could really fit. But then as AI blossomed, my numbers keep dropping. And how do you keep the math? You know, it's just easier for them to ask chat, and the students freely admit, I just ask Chat GPT. And they only come to me now when Chat GPT gives them nonsense and they're still getting the answer wrong. I mean, how do you get them to, you know, have you found that there's been a drop off? And if there is, how do you get them to kind of come back? Because too much reliance on AI, you know, that's the training wheels. And then you come to take a test and the training wheels are off for the first time, and that's bad. So how do you get around that issue?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head right there at the end. Trying to make it really obvious to them that ChatGPT is more often wrong than it is right. And so you may try to be using this tool, but at the end of the day, it's not actually helping you. And you're better off spending that time with a real human who can help you really work through your issues. We've also experimented with some ways to try to encourage them to come into our tutoring space, like a study buddy coupon. Find a friend and you and your friend both come in and get stamps on your study buddy coupon, and then they get a little token of, you get an extension on a homework or whatever, just a little token of something. And so it encourages them to come, but it also encourages them to come with a friend, so it may not seem as scary. Because I think also in the wake of COVID, a lot of that face-to-face interaction somehow became scarier to our students because it was too easy to sit like we are here. It's, you know, I don't really have to interact with you if I don't really want to. I can just kind of passively watch. So I don't know if anybody wants to add on, has other ideas.
All I was gonna say is that I've actually had like students who came in and tried ChatGPT when I was like as a learning assistant, and they'll like even show me, and so this doesn't make any sense and I don't understand it. So then that's I found out that a lot of people kind of understand that ChatGPT doesn't make any sense to them and actually work them through the process.
Any of our other panelists want to weigh in on that? Okay. All right. I'm going to pronounce your name wrong, I'm sure. Supadev, I think you had your hand up. Are you still have a question?
Yeah, I do have a question. So I was thinking that, so I'm at University of Chicago, and we kind of have a similar program as Josh said, which we kind of started a training program for the undergraduate teaching assistants. We hire about 28 of them for like a calculus course, and they run a tutorial program, which is Tuesday, Thursday, mandatory, beside the Monday, Wednesday, Friday lecture schedule. And yeah, so they have like a weekly pedagogy training as well as like some content training. And there is like an orientation program before the quarter starts, etc. The question I have is maybe a follow-up to what you had discussed is like, how do you assess the success of the program? Have any of you thought about assessing whether this was actually useful or not? Like, what is your metric? Have you had any surveys? Are there any kind of tools that you have used? I would like to know just how do I decide whether this was useful for the TAs?
That is a really good question. Thank you for the question. We don't do a lot formally, so the small things that we do, which are more qualitative, is we do, when students do teaching evaluations at the end of the semester, there is a separate teaching evaluation for the learning assistant that was assigned for the course, so we can learn some there. We have them taking this pedagogy seminar, and we do some surveying of the learning assistants to find out how the professional development is working for them. We survey the GTAs that they work with to find out how things are working with their LAs, what additional professional development they wish that their LAs were being provided. But we haven't done a lot formally otherwise, and it's something that we are talking about because our program is getting bigger. Like we have these learning assistants in our 300 level courses now, and it feels like it's growing, and we're like, okay, we should, be doing something maybe a little bit more formally and carefully to assess the impact of this. When we added learning assistants, there were our pass rates did improve, but there were a lot of things that happened at that time. So it's hard to say that, what the impact of learning assistants had on it. So like, for example, we changed class sizes from a maximum of 35 to a maximum of 42, which reduced the number of sections we needed to have, which was where we got the money to fund all of our learning assistants. And we also made this big move to active learning models in our classroom. So there's just a lot of things that we're moving around. So yeah, I know that's not a great answer to your question. Have you had thoughts about like what you might do to assess your program?
I mean, currently the assessment that I have done is really from the student perspective, in like asking them whether or not, like, what do you feel about the TAs, and like, was this program useful to them in some capacity, and just comparing their answer to previous years where we didn't have such a training program. But when I did the survey with the actual TAs, asking them to fill out something about, like, tell us about your experience of the actual training, and it's like 5 responses out of 30. So there was not very useful actual data.
I guess one thing that I'll add, I kind of mentioned offhand that we've had some GTAs who were studying math ed that have done research projects about learning assistants in our classrooms. So we've actually learned about our program through that some as well. Like a recent project by Dr. Rachel Funk looked at the learning assistants roles in the classroom compared to the graduate teaching assistant that they were working with. And that was full of like rich comments from LAs, from students, from instructors, and learning about the way that students saw the value of a near peer, someone in the classroom that really looked like them, that they felt, there are some students that like that more and want to go to their learning assistant more. And then there's other students who want to go to their GTA instructor more. But having, different perspectives, different representation in the classroom, we saw through that was valuable. And that was not like a study maybe whose intention was to like have to find or discover that, but we learned a lot from our program by that, and a lot of things that I would consider to definitely be beneficial, even if not measured by, improved pass rates or something.
Thank you.
So I saw John's question in the comment or in the chat about the case study videos. So I have dropped a link in the chat to the handbook for trainers that we created as part of this COVID project, where we created these videos. So what we did is we had, I think, 4 experienced learning assistants who had been working with us for several years. And then as everything went online at COVID, and we're starting to move all of those LA tutoring type operations online, we needed a way to train in the online. So we took those experienced learning assistants, we gave them loose scripts of student, learning assistant, tutor interactions, and said, create videos around this script. we didn't make them like memorize and do it word for word, but they understood the assignment. And so they went and created these videos so that as we trained the learning assistants during COVID and everything was online, we now had these videos where we could have these rich discussions online. But then we found when we moved back in person, the videos were still great because you can throw one up and be like, hey, what do we notice? What do you know, what do you notice about their language? What do you notice about, how prepared they are? There's one where, the tutor is like way off screen. So, right, like you need to be there. Sometimes, and so there's good and bad in all the videos. And like the one I started showing you is the one we start with because it's really obvious to pick out like, oh, it's Gabby, I see nodding. It's really obvious to pick out like, this is so transactional and no real learning is really happening. And so how do we move beyond that? How can we do things differently? And so it really just opens up those conversations. And then picking out a different video later in the semester where now more good things are happening, but there's still things that students can identify of, I don't do that anymore, but now I can start working on this. And so it really helps as part of their growth across the whole semester. And so the links to those videos are in this handbook. And then within this handbook, there's also like the outline of our whole training course, how we train our learning assistants. So it's a pretty good resource if you're going to be training learning assistants. Hopefully that addresses your question, Don.
All right, awesome. So we still have 5 more minutes. If there are other questions, again, feel free to just unmute yourself or you can put something in the chat. And I will just follow up on Josh was saying earlier about research. So we had another webinar back in January that was on the research around working with LAs, and Dr. Funk was one of the panelists on that. And the recording for that is available on the Tipsy Math website if you wanted to go back and check that out and hear more about what Dr. Funk was doing in that research there. So just throw that out there. Yes, and Cassie has put the link to that in the chat to that previous webinar. So any other questions?
Thank you all for coming out on a Friday afternoon.
Thank you.
All right, well then, so the recording for this video will also be posted on the Tipsy Math website at some point in the near future. So if you found this interesting or helpful, please feel free to let other folks know who might find it interesting and helpful that they can go check out the recording. And yeah, if there's nothing else, then we can wrap things up here. If anybody does have anything, perhaps our panelists can stick around for just a few minutes.
I am happy to stick around.
Okay, great. Thank you all so much.
And definitely reach out if you have questions.
Okay. Alrighty then, it's just back to us.
I'll stop the recording.
Thanks, Kat.